You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it. Doe heads, welcome back.
What's up, my doe heads? It's our favorite day of the week. We have another Captain John Doe podcast on store for you guys.
We got a great one today. I'm really excited about these stories. I've kind of skimmed through the agenda for today.
Oh,
yeah, we'll kind of have this beginning a little shorter. That way we can make even more time for stories today. Because we got some good stories, and then we have a really great advice section at the end. So we got a good one coming for you.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight actually one of my students I had last year in Vegas, because all of my students equally impacted me in a different, unique way. But one in particular had a really similar background as I did. He was an air traffic controller. Unlike me, he actually retired for the full term of his career. So he had a long career as an air traffic controller, and he wanted to become a pilot. But
hold on. I think that we should start at the very beginning on how we met him and just how cool the aviation community is. Because that's the essence of the Captain John Doe podcast, is what's it like to sit in a hangar full of friends and trade stories. And that's how this student of yours started. He had messaged me on Instagram and said, hey, my name is so-and-so. I am a Las Vegas controller and I'm retiring in the next 2 months. And I came across your social media posts on Instagram of you and your husband moving to Las Vegas. And the one post that I saw that just inspired me greatly was you and your husband discussing him leaving ATC to become a professional pilot. He's like, I've always wanted to become a professional pilot, and I feel like I've got another career left in me after my retirement. So he messaged me this really nice, beautiful message. He's like, is there any way I could meet you guys? I'm like, yes, please. So it was literally one of our first couple of days in Las Vegas. We weren't even moved into our house yet, let alone our hangar. And I was like, meet us at our hangar. Come see our airplane. Let's talk. So he met us at the hangar, and we talked for like 2 hours with him and just hit it off instantly because you and him had this ATC background and both wanting to become pilots. And it was just like magic.
Right. I mean, we talked about his goals and his plans and like basically the hype around it. And I could tell based on the way he was acting that he was serious, because a lot of people, will say the thing, but it's so different than doing it. So he laid out a really firm plan. He was going to retire at the end of summer. And then once his pension check started hitting, then he was going to go full time as a flight student. And that's exactly what happened. So naturally we hit it off. He was a fantastic student. We became actually friends to this day. I'm sure he's listening to the podcast. But really the point of why I'm highlighting my student now turned certificated pilot is how much air traffic background translates into a pilot background. So Mindy and I were talking about this probably last night, that right there, air traffic to pilot, works so well, but pilot going to air traffic does not.
Well, I'm not saying, no, it doesn't not work well.
No. Okay, that was a bad way of saying it. The translation is not the same.
Right.
It's not.
Okay, to rephrase, an air traffic controller becoming a pilot has a huge leg up, and they can waltz right through training. But we don't think from our experiences that pilots have enough knowledge about ATC to just waltz through ATC training and become an amazing controller just on the basis of being a pilot.
Right. So air traffic control background, like when you go to the academy in Oak City, every single person has to go through about a month-long private pilot ground school. I'm doing air quotes because it's very surface level.
Wasn't it optional?
It was optional if you had some experience. prior.
Okay, I couldn't remember that.
But I mean, they went through how to read a sectional and how to read weather and TAFs and how to read steam gauges and different type of airplanes and identify them and airspeeds. So like they have some sort of background, and then obviously all the rules and regulations. Put yourself in the pilot's shoes. All of you out there, think about, have you guys ever read the 7110.65? A lot of people, because of social media, are more aware of what that is now.
Yeah.
But in general, the answer is no, because that is the only rule book that air traffic controllers follow. They don't follow the AIM. They don't follow the FARs, because the FARs are written into the 7110.65. So when I started working with this student, naturally, I knew where his strengths and weaknesses were going to lie.
Well,
so
that's what I was going to say is like you were the perfect instructor, because when you started flight training, obviously I knew what you knew. So when I was instructing you, it was easy. But when we brought in a third party instructor, you could say, to kind of like get your time requirements, she didn't know the extent of what you knew and didn't know, and sometimes overestimated what you knew, sometimes underestimated what you knew. So it was like difficult, but you were the perfect instructor for this student we're talking about, because you know exactly what he knows already, where to kind of skim by on material and where to be like, oh, this is different from ATC. You really need to focus here.
Right. Like I not to get long-winded, I remember like our first traffic pattern lesson, I was just doing every comm, and my instructor, she was staring at me like so confused, and to the point where the wind shifted and I changed runways and announced to everybody in the pattern we were shifting runways. And she was like, she's like, how did you even do that? And I was like, what do you mean? You just are going to make smart decisions. But my point is I knew when I took this student up, I did not have to teach him comms. I just had to teach him how to be a pilot.
Well, think about even what you just said, traffic pattern. Like a brand new private pilot student does not know what a traffic pattern is. Like when I learned, they had to put it on a whiteboard. This is the upwind. This is a crosswind. This is the downwind. This is the base. And I'm like, man, I really got to study this thing.
No, that's a great point. I didn't have to teach him.
Yeah.
I was like, how are we going to enter this pattern? And like, he never read the book, but he's like, on the 45. Great answer.
Just automatically.
Great answer. How are you going to announce your position? I'm entering the downwind. Great answer.
Yeah.
Right? Like these things come natural. Now, flying the airplane is different. But because of the communication, it accelerates the learning rapidly.
Gosh, yeah.
So many people all know that flying the airplane is typically the easiest part of getting your license. Learning all the rules, learning your emergency procedures, and talking on the radio while flying and listening to air traffic is easily the hardest thing to do. Right? So this was a dream come true to me, because I've literally went through this a year ago before I started training him. And it was like, wow, this is my best student ever. And he was fairly early on in my instructor days too, which was awesome. Now I've since left and he's doing his instrument, and I got to at least do about 4 or 5 lessons with him. And once again, that's really where that air traffic background will blow it away. Because I remember you talking to me about when you were learning an ILS, like it was
not clicking.
It's so foreign. I don't have to teach him what an ILS is. I have to teach him the nitty gritty, but like how to read an approach plate. The first lesson of instrument, I gave him an approach and had him brief it on me, and relatively speaking, it was really good.
Well, let this be a PSA to any air traffic controllers listening. You need to go get your private pilot license, or maybe even more, because you're shoo-in. You know all of it.
Find a fellow air traffic controller that's a pilot and a CFI. Tell me how many of those there are.
Probably none now that you're not doing it.
They're out there. But anyways, I just want to highlight that. I mean, I could go in the weeds forever, but I want to really focus on our listener stories. So to my student out there, you got this. By the way, He was 56 years old when he started this journey. This question gets asked a lot. Why is it ever too late? That is never an issue.
No.
If you have the means to do it and you want to do it, do it. He's going to be an airline pilot or a 135 pilot, and he's starting his journey at 56. Like,
yes.
Come on.
Starting as a student pilot, private pilot at 56 and making it freaking happen. I love it. Well, if you have any stories like this, CaptainJohnDoe.com to submit your story to our show. Just like the stories we're about to read right now, they're fully anonymous. So say what you mean and mean what you say, because we don't know who you are. It can be anything about aviation. On our last episode, we had someone just talking about an experience in a commercial terminal about almost missing their flight. It can be anything. We love anything about aviation, from mechanics, flight attendants, passengers, pilots. We get a lot of student pilot stories because that's where a lot of flub ups happen. So keep them coming. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Follow on social media. And lastly, and most importantly, maybe to you guys listening, we're doing a merch drawing every single month in 2026. We pick a winner on the last Wednesday of each month. So the next merch drawing will be episode number 54, which comes out on July 29th. That's when we will announce the next winner. You can enter for free by following us on Instagram. There are always posts on there you can engage with to get entries, or leave us a podcast review and send us a DM or an email once you complete it, and you're on the merch drawing list just like that. Open U.S. residents 18 and older. Full rules are linked on our Instagram bio and on our website, CaptainJohnDoe.com.
All right. So I think we guys let you know last week.
You're not going to read any?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
Carson, CF63, 5 stars only. Such a good podcast. Love aviation and have thoroughly enjoyed a more laid-back atmosphere to all things aviation. Thank you so much for the 5-star review. We need it.
Thank you.
We are pushing hard to get these out. I know that that's a cliche thing to say, but we're not always this busy. And, for the next couple weeks, Min and I will not be in the same state, let alone house. So
I just love doing these, though. These are so fun. And I don't know, there's something special about just me and you sitting here talking. It's truly fun to read these stories. This is such...
the idea stemmed from us doing this naturally.
Yeah.
And it's like, and a lot of people who know us are like, you guys should just put it on social media, because you already do that with videos and pictures. And they're like, share your stories, because you guys tell them in a really unique way, I think. I don't know.
Well, and we're a pilot couple, so we have a lot of perspectives that overlap, a lot of perspectives that challenge each other, and then we're married, so then there's no rules on how far we bicker about these stories that we tell.
We really encompass nearly all of the aviation sphere, probably minus mechanic stuff.
Oh yeah, don't ask.
We don't do any of that, but between instructing and CFI and airline and corporate and other
sales
things that we're getting
sales,
into.
Flight training, everything.
It's like, I do find it unique. Like it's cool. I feel really fortunate and blessed that we're in this position. Once again, it's cliche to say that, but come on. When I left home when I was 18 to go play college baseball, I didn't think that this was what I would be doing ever. Ever.
Me neither.
When I showed up my first day of college, they assigned me a major, and I'm pretty sure, what was it? What the heck was it called?
At Stetson?
Yeah.
You were probably sports
something.
Sports science or
business something. Or sports business or something. They assigned me a major. And here I am with you in the position we're in, where we have airplanes and we have toys and we go on trips and we have a podcast that thousands of people listen to every Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's really freaking cool. And all we did is just be ourselves.
Yeah.
Just be honest.
Well, I wanted to find a way to share our stories organically and as a way to relate to other people, not as a look at me. I feel like it's really difficult as someone who posts on social media. The way you present stories and present your life can either be look at me and even unintentionally come off as ego and like, look what I'm doing and you're not, even if it's not intentional. But when it's crafted correctly, it's celebrations and relatability with your community. And we have all these great stories. And I didn't want to create a podcast of just our stories, which was originally proposed to us by friends and family and stuff. Like, you guys have all these experiences. I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't want a podcast about just us. Like, that just feels too look at me. And I don't know.
We're not that important. We've always said that. Right?
This makes me feel
that important.
That makes me feel icky. But we do have a lot. And so as we're reading these stories, our own stories, as you guys know, naturally come up, and we're relating to our listeners. Like, they're the ones that have the platform here. And then we're the ones saying like, oh, I relate to that, rather than the other way around. So I just think it's a beautiful way to create a new community with content creators, where we're not the ones that are always spotlighting and like the structure of the show. I know we like to share our own experience at the beginning, but the structure of the show is about our listeners. And then me and you get to sit here and say like, oh, like that happened to us too. And I'm sure it happened to a lot of other people.
I can't stress enough how much I enjoy reading your stories too.
Yeah, they're so good.
Like, I mean, I really mean that. Like, that's why this is not a chore. It's a lot of work. I know Kyle thinks that it's not a lot of work, but this is a lot of work to do. But like that, it's fun. I mean, I love these stories. I love that people are comfortable sending these in, because I know what industry we're in.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know how difficult it is to open up, especially on social media, especially with people like Mindy, who has a platform where this is getting seen, but we keep it private. We keep it anonymous. We don't, I mean, that's the whole point. Like,
no, I think everyone gets it now. I think at first when we put it out, people are like, oh, people are going to get in trouble. I'm like, no, and it's not really about that. Like, the platform is not meant to out other people. It's kind of meant to admit your own mistakes and be like, look, this is what happened to me.
Or like last week, a fun story where you're at the bar and you're getting drunk with your buddies and you miss your thing. Like, not everything has to be so serious.
But mistakes as a pilot are really difficult to share, not beyond FAA reasoning. It's just difficult to share because you want people to trust you as a pilot. You want your friends and family to look up to you as a pilot, to be comfortable getting in a plane with you as a pilot. And if you're out there like admitting your mistakes, they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to fly with them. And people don't really understand like, oh, every pilot has a book of mistakes they've made. They're just not sharing it because we have to keep professionalism in our industry.
Right.
But this gives people a way to, and like, I don't know, kind of vent, get it off their chest, and relate to a bunch of other people that have done the same thing. We've had a lot of stories written in that I'm sure people thought I'm the only one with this story, and we've probably read several of them.
Yeah, I just thought about this. The FAA follows you. The FAA follows you. So many people, there's so many means the FAA is listening. The FAA follows you. So listen, like, we are 100% understanding of the sanctity of protecting everything. But like, once again, the FAA follows you. So like, they know. So we're not putting things out there that are going to harm anyone.
Yeah, it's not reckless. The podcast is not meant to be reckless or to be like, oh, a Southwest pilot did this, never fly with them.
I just thought about something you posted and someone's like, the FAA is going to come at you, and you responded, they follow me. I appreciate you tagged them.
Yeah.
Like, the FAA follows me. Like, they're...
Well, because I made a joke about listening to a channel on Sirius XM called Unwell Music. And I made a joke saying like, haha, I'm not unwell, don't worry, or something. And people were like, watch out, the FAA might see this. I'm like, yeah, they follow me.
Yeah, they definitely will.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, let's get into some stories.
Okay. Should I go first?
I guess so.
Okay. This story does Okay, sorry.
That was a good start.
3 words and I already stumbled. I was thinking that they meant to say doesn't, but I was getting ahead of myself. Okay. This story does take place at LAS, but is more pilot adjacent. My wife and I lived on the Central California coast. She and her girlfriend took a girls' trip to Vegas and flew Allegiant out of Santa Maria, SMX. On the trip, they ran into a couple they knew from home who was also flying on Allegiant. On the return trip, the 4 of them were at the gate waiting on the flight when they got the announcement that it was delayed due to weather at SMX. My wife called to let me know. While I had her on the phone, I pulled up ForeFlight and checked the weather. The Central Coast has often what we call the marine layer, which actually gives you a lot of approaches and actual IMC during instrument training. This time, the forecast was for below minimums, well into the next day. I tell my wife the flight will be canceled and she should start deciding what they wanted to do. I heard her tell the other 3 what I said. The husband of the other couple asked how I knew. This is where a proud wife stated, he's a pilot. I like to think that she immediately forgave me for all the times I spent at the airport. Shortly after that, the announcement was made that the flight was indeed canceled. They rented a car and drove 6+ hours home, which is the downside of flying Allegiant. Unrelated side note regarding motion sickness. We learned this from a detailer detailing our cars after my wife barfed, and not one, but both of them. I drove to rescue her after she barfed in her car and gave her my car to drive home while I attempted to clean her car. I got home to find that she had also barfed in my car. Note, never quit a medication cold turkey, even the doctor says it won't kill you. This tip will probably apply to the cockpit as well as a car. If a barf bag is not available, or can't be gotten in time to pull the collar of your shirt out and barf down the front of your shirt. Ew. It's much easier to clean yourself off than it is to get the barf out of every crack and crevice of your panel, or in my case, the console of 2 cars. Love the podcast, and I look forward to every episode.
Wow, he's an expert in barfing in cars, apparently.
Should we talk about that first?
Go ahead.
Okay, so his tip is that if you don't have a barf bag, you should open up your shirt and barf into your own shirt.
No.
Saying that it's easier to clean yourself than to clean your car or airplane.
I get it after the fact, but during the...
Are you going to sacrifice yourself?
I'm never going to barf on myself.
That's like...
That's not the first thing that's coming to my mind. It's...
Well, even knowing this... Even knowing that now, that goes against human nature to dirty yourself. That's disgusting. I can't. Wow. There's no way. Even if there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way.
Your tip is noted. It will not be applied if ever needed by Kev.
No, I think you should barf on yourself. I'm not going to barf on myself.
Yeah, I mean...
If you got a barf in mojo, you should barf in your shirt.
Just carry a barf bag in your car like they do in airplanes.
I guess so. That's an interesting tip. I've never heard that in my life.
No, noted.
I just cannot imagine pulling my shirt open and being like, yep, this is where it's going to go.
I always appreciate the unsolicited tips because I'm the king of that.
Disgusting. I'm like visualizing it now.
The other thing is the flight getting canceled. So like, my first thought is like, you never can forecast that. Like, even as a pilot, as your wife said, you don't know, because airlines have different rules than us little GA pilots have. So it's really hard to determine if a flight's going to be canceled or not. I like that you spoke up and you're like, I got this, babe. You need to get a car before the rest of the 180 people realize they're not getting back home. But
true.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard call to make. Like, I mean, think about it. How often has a flight been canceled for weather that you've been on? And most people can probably name a couple times.
I don't know if I've ever had a flight cancel for weather. I've had them delayed.
Usually when they're canceled, this is typical, is it's a known weather system. But like what he's talking about in California, because I flew out there every week, I know that marine layer basically starts at the ground. So like,
right, there's no
seeing anything. Yeah, I mean, Vegas to Santa Maria, people do that every day.
Santa Maria.
Well, I will note that if I ever have to puke...
Quick, name all the Columbus boats.
the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria.
That's only what I think about when I see Santa Maria.
We on a boat. We on a boat.
That's not the same song.
Okay.
But I like where you're going.
My turn.
Okay.
News story. Another listener submitted. We were planning a morning flight with my wife and her cousin to get some cross-country time for my instrument rating in a 182 Turbo. Beautiful new plane, an absolute performer. However, when I didn't weight and balance. Wait, those words don't match. When I did weight and balance calculations, we were about 200 pounds over with full fuel. I called the FBO and made sure they would leave half tanks so we were underweight, as I prefer not to fly at max gross when possible. The morning of, I showed up and my CFI was already at the school. I told him I have the flight plan filed and we were all good to go, to which he replies, good. I had them top off the tanks. I looked at him and said, I asked for half tanks because we would be overweight. He pulls out his phone and opens an app. Throws our weight in and says, nope, still got 35 pounds remaining. Thinking, I did something wrong in my calculations. I said, oh, I just missed something. Who am I to argue with the instructor? We go out and pre-flight the airplane. Everything looks good besides the fuel splashing out of the fuel caps. But his weight and balance says we're fine. We taxi out, do the run-up, configure for takeoff, and call tower. Clear for takeoff, we head out to the runway. Apply full power and lumber down the runway. V1, rotate. That's funny. The plane glides off the runway and begins to climb. Suddenly, the control feels much like the climb rate stops. Huh. Can you help me on that line?
Suddenly, the controls feel mushy.
Maybe mushy. Suddenly, the controls feel mushy and the climb rate stops. We are in ground effect. I pull up and the airspeed bleeds off. I push forward and we get lower, but the airspeed picks up. My CFI pulls up the flaps, tells me to get it over 95 knots and pull up. We barely clear a building and have a 200 foot per minute climb as we shakily get up to safe altitude. The rest of the flight is uneventful, and upon arriving at our destination, there was debris on the runway causing us to have to fly a racetrack pattern and burn more fuel before landing. Once we get to the parking and head to the diner at the airport, we sit to eat and I say, that sure was a hairy takeoff. And he replies, when I take off overweight, I just use no flaps and get my speed way up, admitting that they were overweight. I looked at him and said, I thought we weren't overweight. And he just shrugged. But did you die? I flew home on half tanks as I originally expected to, and the plane and flight was perfect. Never flew with that CFI again.
I am about to fall out of my chair.
Oh my God.
We just complained about shitty instructors on the last episode. And here we are again.
There's a lot of things here that armchair quarterback coming in hot.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go back up to the top. Like when he said I was flight planning and there's going to be 4 people and we were going to be overweight with full fuel, I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like a 182 is a 4-seater, but as you guys know, with small airplanes, if it's a 4-seater, it's really like a 2.5-seater.
Period.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to reduce fuel. There's no like small GA plane generally that can fit full fuel and put a butt in every seat. So
Period.
I already know that from flying 182s for many, many years that, yeah, you can't put
and 182s probably can hold more than most.
Right. And I know you can't fill 4 people and full fuel. So I was like, yeah, that checks. So I'm wondering, whenever he told the CFI, first of all, do you think that the CFI, whenever he said, oh, like you told them full, I told them half because of weight and balance. Do you think that the CFI was kind of caught with his pants down there and didn't want to seem like he didn't realize that and that the student was smarter with him? So he brushed it off being like, yeah, of course we're fine.
I mean,
do you think that's how it started? Because why would the CFI intentionally fly overweight if they didn't need full fuel to make that flight happen, which obviously they didn't?
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
Do you think that that's what it was?
Like that he knew better.
Instead of admitting his mistake, being like, oh shit, I forgot you were bringing your wife and her friend. That's my mistake. mistake.
This is one of those things, like, I don't want to get burned at the stake here, but like, if you're going to break a rule like being overweight, do not put other people at danger, right?
Yeah, screw you.
Like that's just like unacceptable on all behaviors.
No, that really pisses me off.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge what you do in your cockpit by yourself, but when you're with one, he had two non-pilot passengers. We've made this clear. They are unassuming. They don't know any better.
No, they're trusting you.
You're solely responsible for their safety, and that's the icky part.
This was so icky. I think that I think that the CFI got caught with his pants down, meaning like the student was like, dude, weight and balance. And he's like, oh yeah, it's fine. And inside he was probably like, uh-oh, I didn't remember that, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. I think it wasn't intentional, I'm assuming, and that the instructor was trying to act macho and be like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. I think. But why would he lie and say, nope, still got 35 pounds remaining? That's the part that I'm questioning. Like, did he actually miscalculate it and then later at the diner was still not admitting he made a mistake? Like,
anyways.
Not anyways. The 35 pounds, I'm just not understanding why he would say that at the beginning, that there's 35 pounds remaining.
Which is probably not even accurate, but I don't know. This is just like one of those CFIs that
Sucks.
You hear on Facebook. They only care about the flight time, and it's just like.
And then I'm wondering too, when they pulled the flaps up like that, like when you read that had me concerned.
Oh,
because like
so bad,
right?
All the whole flap thing here. I'll make it crystal clear. Please do not take off with no flaps and a freaking 182 ever.
No, you can. No, it's totally fine. That's safe.
I know, with like this much weight on board, like, don't do that.
Well, we're not endorsing taking off overweight. I'm just saying it's perfectly fine to take off in a way too, flaps up.
Sure, but pulling the flaps up.
But I'm saying like they were struggling to climb, barely getting above trees, and they pulled flaps. What does that do?
You're gonna sink immediately.
Exactly. That's why I don't know exactly when the flap pulling happened of when they did that, but when you read that they pulled the flaps up as they were hardly clearing stuff, I was like, uh-oh, this is where it goes south.
Really, the only time, and I'm not endorsing this, that you would pull the flaps up quick is if you're still actively in ground effect. Like, normally you should not be touching those flaps until you're at whatever your predetermined safe flaps retraction altitude is.
And speed.
You know, like, I'm learning a lot with the school I'm going through now is that there's a hard number that the airlines use. There's no, okay, there's wind shear or crosswind or whatever, so we're going to pull them up here. It's a firm number every time, and I think that should translate relatively into GA. Obviously, there's so many different airplanes, so don't get hell bent on that. But then the reason I said what I said is he said he takes off no flaps when he's overweight.
This guy's a loser.
Insane. That's an insane statement.
Oh, this guy's a loser. Also, okay, I'm going to read the last two sentences one more time. And I want to hear from you, Kevin, what you would do. So he says, when I take off overweight, admitting that he does it a lot, when I take off overweight, I just use no flaps and get my speed way up, admitting that we are overweight. So I looked at him and said, I thought we were overweight. And he just shrugged. But did you die?
It would have been really hard for me not to go to the chief pilot immediately.
So, okay, well, think about it. You're at another airport.
Oh.
So they were at their cross-country destination. They stopped for lunch. They were turning around to come home. After those sentences, tell me in that moment, you're sitting in the diner with your CFI, and he says, but did you die?
Yeah, there's no way that I'm letting him in. It sounds like it's your airplane or a rental, but you're already a pilot. There's no way I'm letting that guy get back in the plane with me.
Immediately fired. Think about this. His wife was on board. I would never even let a passenger get in with this guy, let alone my own self. No, hold on. I'm not shitting on the person who wrote in because like we're hindsight's 2020, right? And like
that's why I said armchair quarterback.
Right, we're not there, but I'm just trying to place ourselves in that moment. I feel so strongly about boundaries and my expectations with people that if they admit and they say something like that, but did you die, knowing that we were overweight and you kind of almost did die.
100%. You made so many critical errors that easily could have had you snap the wing. Easily.
Yeah, you all could have died. Like
pulling those flaps up while pulling back, the fact that you're in a 182 is the only saving grace because it's a little bit more stable.
And in a turbo.
Like it's a little bit more, yeah, you have a little bit of extra power and a little bit more stable, but like that technique will snap hook you into the ground in almost any airplane. By the way.
I don't know. I don't want to sound like a Karen. However, like I do value my life and I value the life of the people around me, especially like freaking family and my spouse and their friends. And at that moment sitting there, it would have been hard to not choose violence. But I would have done my best. I would have called the flight school and chief pilot and explained what happened. I would have fired him on the spot, left him wherever that destination was. You need to find your own way home. You are not allowed in this aircraft with me. And I would have flown back home with my wife and friend.
Let's just get a little nitty gritty here. It's bothering me about his last sentence.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking about where he takes off overweight with no flaps. Let's just think about like the aerodynamic aspect of that. So like this guy in his mind thinks that if he gets enough energy, then he can pull up. And when he says pull up, he probably means rapidly because he's going to take the entire runway to accelerate if he's overweight. So now we have to think about where's the plane's CG. Is it forward or aft? If you guys all are going through your private pilot, you know that matters a lot. And guess what? That load on that wing is going to have that stall characteristics almost immediately. 95 knots and a 182 is still a stallable airspeed.
Well, okay, I'm just frustrated how this ended. So the fact that he said, I never flew with that CFI again, I just feel like there needed to be more to that. Personally, I would make sure that CFI potentially never flew again. Like, we don't need people like that flying. I'm just gonna say it. Like, I'm not like a Karen. I've seen a lot of missteps in other people, and like I try to come from a place of understanding. But when you put other people in a position like that where their lives are literally on the line and you're gonna joke about it and say, but did you die? Right. You shouldn't be operating an aircraft and having other people's lives in your hand. I wholeheartedly think that person should be reported.
Well, I'm glad you fired him.
But that's like a minimal step.
Why don't you write in and let us know? Because we won't talk about the podcast, but I want to know what happened to this instructor.
I hate this.
Because like I've never worked with an instructor that was like that. If anything, most instructors I've worked with were the opposite end, where they wouldn't even fly if the databases weren't up to date. Right. They're doing VFR.
I know, and that's extreme too.
Yeah.
I would rather though this instructor have said, hey dude, like I made a big mistake. I miscalculated the weight imbalance. That's my bad. We're going to fly home half tanks and I promise it's never going to happen again. This was a learning experience for me too. And that's my boo-boo.
Take the damn fuel out of the tank. We did it the other day.
Yeah.
Take fuel out of the tank.
That's just frustrating to me. That I hate that attitude. That gets me upsetty spaghetti.
All right. Well, let's move on to something more cheerful, maybe, or not.
I don't know.
We have an advice section. Are you reading this for me?
I can read it.
Go.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, on our website, in addition to submitting stories, you can also submit advice. And sometimes we have time for it. Sometimes we don't. We do have a few in the box that are ready to go. This one we've been sitting on for a minute. That way we had time to actually properly break this down. So here's the advice submission.
This is from a Captain John Doe, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Mindy and Kevin. I absolutely love your podcast. Both of you are heroes to me. The dedication and sacrifice you have both made to become successful in your careers is very impressive and admirable. I'm asking for your advice. A little background on me. I am a 54-year-old female who is married and my children are grown. Looking for a hobby, my husband suggested I try a discovery flight. I thought he was crazy. I had an irrational fear of flying. I was the passenger on commercial flights that was white-knuckling the armrest with tears rolling down my cheeks. I've had flight attendants hold my hand and even comp me small bottles of liquor to calm my nerves. Flying for many years was very stressful, anxiety-provoking, and I avoided it at all costs. Reluctantly, I took the discovery flight and thought, it is time to conquer this fear. I have a wonderful CFI who's very patient and understanding. Many, many hours later, I am too embarrassed to tell you how many, I have soloed in the pattern and it is now time for my solo cross countries. My first short cross country, my CFI followed me in his other airplane. He has definitely gone above and beyond for me. For whatever reason, I am scared to fly by myself. I want someone sitting beside me, another set of eyes. The person doesn't even have to be a pilot. I just want someone there. I always think worst case scenario. I'm not sure if it's my age, my gender, life experience, or just the way I am wired. Any suggestions, experiences, words of wisdom would be greatly appreciated. P.S. I'm also addicted to any and all crashes that are posted on social media. Thanks for your help.
So first off, there is nothing unique about what she said in any of these things. Nothing.
No.
So many people have this irrational fear of flying. So many people have that fear. So many people don't want to be alone in the airplane.
Well, first though, we need to celebrate this woman that she went from white knuckling, getting alcohol comped, tears running down her face, to flying in a freaking airplane by herself.
Incredible.
That gives me chills that someone can push themselves from that person on a Delta flight, white knuckling, crying, to flying a plane by themselves.
Talk about hero. What do you think
that's a
kids
hero.
think of you?
Oh my God, that's
Captain
so
John Doe. What do you think your kids think of you? They've flown on a Delta plane with you, and now they're like, my mom flew an airplane by herself.
That is
like, how insane is that?
That is
like
the most heroic thing I could think of.
You talk about heroes. I didn't do anything heroic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, your kids must look up to you so greatly. I hope that you really think about that. You are setting an amazing example for your kids, whether they're grown or not. Like, that's amazing.
Next topic. This is the type of instructor that we would love to highlight.
This instructor who followed her in his own plane on her cross country to make her feel more comfortable deserves the world. That is the sweetest thing I've ever heard an instructor do.
That's the type of people that make real impacts on this entire industry, because this story you're telling, I am sure you've told 1,000 times to people that your instructor trailed you.
That is not standard.
Versus the guy in the last story said, "Did you die?"
Right. Oh my God. Think about who you got paired with. That is a blessing that you got this person, because this person who's instructing you, you already said it, above and beyond. I have never heard of an instructor going to that length with their student. He obviously believes in you and knows you can do this, and is there to make sure that you are not going to drop out of this.
Right. So that's why he's with you, is to make sure you don't have a excuse to say no.
Right.
It's not because he doesn't trust you.
No, I think he believes in you very deeply, and that's why he's investing his own time and money in you beyond the normal scope of instructing. So I hope that doesn't add too much pressure to your plate, but just enough to know like that people believe in you so strongly that they're willing to go to these lengths. That's really beautiful.
Advice, simple as it gets. You've already done the hardest possible thing. You've soloed and you've done a solo cross country. There's nothing harder in your private training than getting over that hump. Mentally, right? Obviously, all the studying, which I doubt that that's an issue for you. You're an adult. You understand what it takes to be successful because you're flying an airplane as an adult. But you've already done literally the hardest thing by getting in an airplane, firing it up by yourself, and then bringing it back down to the ground and going home. So don't give that up. There's a lot of people that get to that point, and they took so much effort and energy, and they're just exhausted, and they take a break, and that break turns in forever.
Right.
So you're asking for advice is like, if you
get it over with.
Yeah, if you let off the gas, it's going to be really hard to get back in.
My advice is just like yours. Like, do it all now and fast and get it over with. The reality is you don't need a lot of solo time to get your license. It's so minimal. There's not a lot of solo time. And then after that, fly with other passengers and people if that's what makes you like more settled.
I don't like flying by myself ever. And it has nothing to do with a fear. It has everything to do with I genuinely want somebody with me.
Right.
Like always. There was, like Mindy said, when I started instructing, I had the absolute bare minimum solo time. Absolute. There was not a time that went by that you were not with me in the 182.
Right.
And then I remember like week 1, I had to fly back from Sacramento to Vegas by myself. And I was like, wow, I've really never done this. And I'm sitting there and I was like, this is really cool. And then it was a 3.5 hour flight. Halfway through, I'm like, you know, it'd be really cool as if Mindy or anybody else was here.
Yeah.
Just so like I have company.
Well, yeah, because I'm struggling to understand because she explains that she has all this anxiety, but where I struggle to relate to this story in particular is I can understand that. I've gone through chapters of my pilot career where I've had a lot of anxiety around flying, but it was escalated and still is escalated when I have non-pilot passengers, because back to that responsibility of having someone on board that trusts you and your abilities, I find it so much more stressful to have non-pilot passengers versus no one at all.
Right.
And then like the top tier of least anxiety is having another pilot with you or instructor.
You're also very unique in the fact that you have more solo time than not.
Yeah.
You know, than anybody I know. You have thousands of hours solo versus the normal instructor getting hired at the airlines has 15 or 20, whatever.
But I just like wonder why having a non-pilot passenger settles her nerves, because to me that feels like more pressure.
Yeah, non-pilot, that's a good point. Like I get nervous with non-pilot passengers. Like,
right. I think a lot of people
do. Because you feel so responsible. You feel obligated to perform. When you have a bad landing, they might not understand. Or if you have a good landing in challenging conditions and it wasn't perfect, they don't understand.
I don't even care about that. That's ego.
You're right. I'm getting down the rabbit hole.
That's just ego.
It is ego.
I'm talking about just like the anxiety of having a non-pilot passenger, because like as things may go wrong, they're just not like they're depending on you for everything, whereas another pilot is going to be helpful and understand the circumstances and know exactly what's going on.
Right.
So I don't know that part, because like, or are you trusting non-pilot passengers more than you should? Because you said you just want another set of eyes. Like, what do we mean by that? Because your
husband is not going to help you.
He's not going to save you.
He's not going to save you unless you tell him to get his license.
But I'm just saying, like, are we putting too much trust into these non-pilot passengers for this particular woman, of thinking that they're going to help her when they're not capable? Is that what's settling the nerves? Is bad expectations of what passengers can do.
So if you were my student, I think really what I would focus on with you is solo time and doing way more than the requirement. I think that
ouch.
That's probably what I've had a student like this. Not that he was particularly anxious, but he over-relied on me in the cockpit. But he was great to the point where he was doing solo cross countries. But I remember like I think I went skiing with my friends and I assigned him like 3 cross country solos that week, even though he already completed all of his solo cross country time. And like, we kind of talked about it and I was like, listen, this is not a punishment. This is for you to really understand that you and you alone are capable of doing this without me or without anybody else. So like my suggestion as an instructor, and I'm sure your instructor already knows this, is do more than the requirement, because you're going to be able to pass your license. But once you get your license, what are you going to do with it? Because so many people don't do anything with it because they now don't have that safety blanket.
Yeah.
And you need to get past that point, which you already are. But that little lingering thought will linger. address it.
And I think that you have an awesome instructor. So this is probably not necessary to say, but do these solo cross countries to airports that you're very familiar with, that you have flown this exact route cross country with your instructor. That way we're controlling what we can control, right? Every flight's different, but at least we can have as much of the structure of familiar as possible.
Right. And I think every instructor that's worth their weight in salt understands that. But like you as the student too, like I had a student come to me. He texted me. He was going on a cross country, and the wind was a little bit icky at our practiced destination. And he said, "Can I go to this other airport?" And I texted him. I said, "Have you ever landed there without me?" And he said, "No." And I was like, "So what do you think?" You know, put it on him. And he came up with the decision. You're right. Like, that's not a smart move. I was never going to let him do that because, number one, the endorsement that you get is literally states it has to be an airport that you've been practiced. But what Mindy said.
So I think also a couple of quick advice before we go and wrap this up is after your solo flights, I challenge you to debrief yourself with everything that you did well. I think that anxiety-ridden people focus on the bad, and after your solo flight that you just completed perfectly and had a wonderful landing, you didn't break anything, it's back in the hangar, and you should be patting yourself on the back. I'm going to suspect you're the type of person, which I understand, I can relate to this, that's like, man, I was off by a little bit on my altitude for a minute, and you're beating yourself up on the car ride home when really you should be building yourself up. So I challenge you in your debrief to go over, acknowledge the things you could have done better, but I want you to leave your conversation with yourself of all the things you did great. I want you to make the list as long as possible and say all the things that went wonderful. I started the plane up on the first try. I didn't butcher my comms today. I remembered to set the altitude, and I always miss it, but today I remembered to do it. And I want you to leave yourself on a high. That way you start to build your confidence. I also think that anxiety is not a terrible thing in the cockpit. After a certain spectrum it is, but a little bit of anxiety shows that you care and that you're actually focusing on the flight. I think we talk about that in sports and stuff all the time. Like, if you're not nervous, you don't care.
Yeah.
And you're not truly focused in. And a little bit of anxiety is what triggers that adrenaline, and that makes you so sharply focused. So I think that you can turn this into a bit of your superpower where you become so good about being checklist oriented and being really careful and not getting overconfident. So I think that part of this could be a bit of a positive, right?
The other thing I was thinking too, what you just said, and it keeps bringing back all these things that my students did, is when your instructor asks for the debrief, make sure you debrief them fully, because you should debrief yourself, like Mindy said, in all the positives, but the things that you did that maybe were unfamiliar or a little bit icky in your opinion, please debrief, because there's a student in particular I remember went off on his long cross country. We debriefed. He said everything went well. I'm the instructor. I know that that's not 100% true, but it was fine. 2 weeks later, he came to me and he said, "Yeah, I think I want to go to the local area because on my solo cross country, I went around twice." And I looked at him and I said, "Why didn't we talk about this?" And I said, "I would have been so proud of you when you told me that."
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to tell me that. You just told me you made a decision to not land that airplane twice because you felt unstable
and didn't get pressured to put the wheels on.
Because I feel like students don't understand that that's a great thing when you make that decision without your safety blanket next to you.
Yeah.
I was pulling my hair out. Did I make you feel a certain way that you couldn't have told me this?
There's a stigma around
but,
go-arounds.
Yeah, but my point is debrief fully, because you might think something is not okay and your instructor might be like, "Oh my God, give me your logbook. I'm signing you off your check ride."
Right.
Because that's what did it for me.
Well, let's close this up. You're 54 and you're trying a new hobby, one that's relatively difficult to learn. So that deserves a lot of applause. You obviously have a supportive husband that threw you into this and challenged you to face your fears. So you have an awesome family support system. I am positive that your grown kids are looking at you like, wow, look what mom is doing.
Wow.
Truly. And then you have the gift of hobby pilot learning. You're not on a career timeline, so I don't care how many hours it took you to get.
Don't matter. You notice how we didn't talk about that.
No, you mentioned you're embarrassed about how many hours it took you to solo. To that, I say, who cares?
No one cares.
That you kept with it beyond all those hours expectations that you may have set for yourself, and looking over at the 21-year-old kids that are soloing in 15 hours, and you're like, oh, well, it took me triple that. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You're on your own timeline. I think that's a wonderful gift that you can have a little bit less pressure on that. I wouldn't be comparing yourself to these kids who don't have a husband, who don't have kids, who don't have a household to run, who have their parents paying for their stuff, and they're career driven. You're in a different phase of life, so please give yourself some grace. It doesn't matter, and you're awesome for getting out there and doing it. So
let us know when you get your license.
I was just going to say that.
My turn.
You've got to write in when you get your license, and you're not going to stop till you get it. That's mandatory.
Don't stop the no.
Mandatory.
All right, Doe heads, great episode. We will catch you again next Wednesday. Peace out.
See ya.
Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.